We now have our first panel for you. So bring up the slides for the speakers. So here's the first challenge, is they have to sit in the right spot under their own names here. So over here we have Jean-Paul from Absolute Consulting.
Hi.
We have a good old friend of mine, Lance Younger from Deloitte. And we have Graham Wright from IBM. So this is a panel that we put together to really dig into some of the issues that we've heard already this afternoon from Justin and Marcel. My first question is for you, Jean-Paul. We heard a lot about the changing paradigm from Marcel and Justin earlier. How can procurement get ready for this paradigm? What do companies need to do? When you look at the companies that you visit, how can they prepare themselves?
So first of all, when I think of this statement and what we heard so far from Justin and Marcel, what came to my mind is a famous sentence from Roy Mera, so an American scientist, futurist, researcher. And he was also president of the Institute for the Future. And he was saying something that is really true for I would say, all of us, right? So in private life and business life. And what I'm saying in a bit is known as the Amara's Law. And he was saying basically that we tend to overestimate the effect of technology in the short term, and we underestimate the effect in the long run. Okay. So as a starting point for a company to think of is really what we heard already, to change the mindset, to really ask yourself how we are working today. Are we agile? Are we innovative, persuasive? Are we open? And so as a starting point to see a sort of vision and draw a strategy with action points. And when we think of that, let's take the example of culture. You need to be aware of what kind of different cultures you have in your company on a national basis, international basis, and you need to be aware of what are the changes you can manage and what are the changes you cannot manage. And you have different kind of people in your company. You have the youngsters used to use the technologies, they're open for change, they're used to that. They're not asking for a business model of Snapchat, they're just using it, right? And you have the professionals, they are more sustainable, they're a bit skeptical.
Yes, we like to use email.
Yes, exactly. So they're a bit skeptical. So what is happening right now? Does it impact me tomorrow, next year? I don't know. So it's really important to have a sort of bunch of people making up their mind and really say, hey, how are we going to manage these two ends, right? So these cultures, the different mindsets, and bring them together and form it into a line towards innovation.
Thanks, Jean-Paul. That's interesting. I like the comment about underestimating versus overestimating. Okay, so going back to a comment that we had about, so how does procurement engage with the rest of the business? What is a digital governance model? Who is the end customer of procurement? Is it the end user? Is it my end customer? Is it my supplier? How should procurement engage with the business in a digital world? Jean-Paul, do you want to go first on that one?
Yeah, I can do so. So, pretty interesting, challenging question. I would say it's really like what you said, it's along the complete chain, right? It's more like that even more than today, procurement will be integrated with other business areas, needs to be cross-functional, involved, and providing ideas along with partners. You need to think of new strategic alliances, right? You need to think like disruptive, yeah, I like the word. Think of just new approaches, because the challenge is it's not like 10 years before where you make up a midterm or long-term strategy. You have just SRM 5 or then 7, but the steps were really, was rather slow how innovation comes into play. But here it's really like you have a strategy maybe for 1 year, you have your starting points, but every month, for some instances, every week you need to rethink, you need to readapt, but to do so, you really have to have a mindset within your company, because otherwise, if just 2 or 3 people think in that way, it will not work. So you need to create a mindset, a sort of culture, just be open to accept that these changes will happen, because where I'm convinced of is the changes will happen. If you do not accept this, then it will happen without you, and this will give you a situation within a few years. If you do not have this technology platform, let's say on a cloud basis, can be Ariba, S4, there are many possibilities, but at the end of the day, these companies, they can easily adopt and deploy these innovations that comes on a quarterly basis, even weekly basis. The others, they have a big competitive disadvantage. Yeah? And on the other hand, the others again have this view into the supply chain, the risks. Yeah? They can foresee things, they can utilize machine learning. So It's all over. It's totally integrated. No, in addition to that, maybe what is important to recognize is the speed, really, the speed with which innovation comes in has really impressed myself. And even myself, working since 17 years as a service provider, so a consultant, consulting small companies, big companies all around the world, I really underestimated the fact how fast this innovation now comes into play. We saw a couple of examples, and with SRM 5, there were not so many possibilities, so you could concentrate on your categories, your savings. Yep. Now, and this is what will even accelerate in the next years, we are on an exponential curve of technology change and innovation, and we are, from my point of view, please correct me if you see it in another way, are already on a steep point at this curve. And so you need the basis, and then now you have the possibilities to do all these things you would love to do. But as of now, most of the companies are not agile. They're stuck with their applications. They think of integrations with every release change. They just cannot do anything for months. So this is a new era, and let's go for it and take the chance.